In this video, we're going to create an advanced inventory system in Unity 2019. And this is actually going to be a mini series on the channel moving forward. It's going to be like 4 or maybe even 3 episodes, which was something that I asked you all about for a few days ago if you like this kind of stuff, and you said yes, so here it is. I really hope you guys enjoy these short series of tutorials that we're going to make on the channel. If you do and you want to see more, make sure to leave a like on this video because it shows a lot of support, and comment what you would like to see next. I also want to mention that this series is made possible thanks to all of our Patreons, including Make a Game, Flu Joey, Richard Stance, Kupla, and James Dogan. Thanks to your support, I'm able to make this series of videos and make them come true. If you guys want to check out how you can support me and make more content, definitely check out the Patreon link that is going to be in the description box of this video. And now, with that being said, open up Unity and let us get started. Alright, here we go. So now we're inside Unity and we have Unity 2019 open, and this is just a sample 3D project using nothing else like a specific package or whatever, and it's actually saying preview packages in use because we're using post-processing, but you know, we're actually not utilizing it here. And then I basically have a plane, a 3D plane as a ground with a custom texture on it, and then a player, which is basically a part of the standard assets by Unity. It's an asset pack, which you can also download from the asset store, which I'm going to link in the description. And this is the FPS rigid body controller, so that's basically it. And what we're going to do in this video is we're first and foremost going to create the UI for the inventory, and we're going to get started. Basically, this is going to be like this absolute basics, and then make sure our inventory reads all of these slots that are available so that when we pick up an item, we can click on it. And we're going to do that by basically detecting the slots with our mouse and make sure that it works. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and create a new game object, and this is going to be a part of the UI. And we're going to create a panel from here, and this is automatically going to, so if you're unfamiliar with the UI system, that's not a problem. This basically creates a canvas game object, which is a whole canvas that we can modify and play around in. And then we also have the panel that we just created, and the panel is the graphic you can see here. So this little white transparent rectangular kind of form, shape, whatever, that's basically the panel. And we're going to use this panel as basically just a background for the inventory. So we can rename this panel to inventory, maybe even just call it inventory. And then for this inventory object, we're also going to have a child for this. So we can right click on it and go down to UI once again. And this is also going to be a panel. However, this one is going to be significantly smaller in terms of the horizontal reach that it has on the screen, because we don't want it to reach to the end of the screen. We just want it to be almost a half of the screen. And I actually don't want it on the left-hand side. So let us move it to the other side. There we go. So the reason I added this new panel is because we're gonna have our inventory slots in this here, and on the left hand side I'm planning to have like a character screen where we have like a hat, or we can change like the armor, weapon, and stuff like that. So we're gonna have a specific slot for each of the fields, aka properties of our player. And this panel that we just created, I'm actually gonna rename this to slot holder. Something that really always like trips me about the UI system is that when you happen to be like behind where all the action goes, it kind of like happens to be on the left hand side in the scene view, whereas in the game view it's on the right hand side. So let me actually change that up. Let me just travel back and forth a little bit. There we go. That seems to be a little bit more accurate. So next up, we're gonna create the slot itself, and for that we can actually right click on the slot holder this time, and once again go down to UI, and you know this already because this kind of became like a routine at this point, and we're gonna go to panel. However, like I mentioned before, this is going to be a slot, and we obviously don't want the slot to be this huge, so we're just gonna resize this a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm also going to move this a little bit to the right side, if I can get a hold on it. Oh, there we go. It was snapping. Okay, cool. So this looks pretty good. And now we're gonna duplicate this panel. Actually, before, let me rename this so that we don't have like 24 panel game objects. We can call this slot. And now I'm gonna duplicate this slot object by basically holding down Control and pressing D while I'm on Mac. So it's gonna be Command and then D. So let me press this a few times, actually even more. Duplicate to like 25, oh, 26. Okay, can I undo? Oh, there we go. Okay, good. I'm using a Windows keyboard, so it's kind of like a little bit random when I'm pressing the random keys. I'm holding down the Windows key instead of the command key, so I don't know. That's just weird. I don't know. Now we have 25 different slots, and they're all in the same position. As you can see, the outline is pretty thick. So now we're gonna go to the slot holder and add a new component here. And this one is called Grid Layout Group. So as you can see, Unity is a beautiful software, just a little bit of sellout. No, really, the component basically helps you laying out all these slots in a row, and it automatically takes care of like overlapping slots so that it moves them down a row and keeps going like that. So it's pretty good to use for this kind of scenario. And you can also increase the spacing in X and Y axis. So I think I'm gonna go for a value of 9 in both X and Y, so this might look pretty good. However, as you can see, the slots are a little bit larger, relatively speaking, to what we set it to be first. So we can actually just decrease the cell size, which is a field here in the inspector, and this looks to be pretty good. I'm gonna leave it a little bit of like almost like a space in between here, so that we can move this part a little bit to the side as well, to the right side. So overall, let's round this up to 91 and do the same thing with y-axis. So remember when I said that I want to have a little bit of gap, or aka space, between the most left slots here and the starting of the rectangle, the graphic itself. So to do that, I can basically just go to the slot holder game object, and in the inspector, under the grid layout group script that we just added, we can change the child alignment if we want to. So I can set it to be like middle left, and it's going to move it vertically to the middle, but I do want it to be at the center of, like horizontally speaking as well. So I can say middle center, and it's going to align it automatically for me. And what's beautiful about this is the fact that if we want to say like change the size of the inventory graphic itself, the icons, the slots themselves rather, they're gonna align automatically as well. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate the last slot a little bit more so that we actually have an overlap, because this is going to be one of the features of the inventory system, is that we're gonna allow our player rather to be able to pick up backpacks or like bags or whatever, which is going to grant them the ability to have more inventory slots. And you can see that now we have kind of like an overlap, and if we were to play the game, we can't really scroll through the overlap. Like we're not able to scroll here even if I use my mouse. So if I just exit the play mode and go to my slot holder, I'm first and foremost going to add a new component here and call this mask. And I'm also going to uncheck show mask graphic, which is going to disable the rectangle in the background. And then I will go to my inventory game object and add a new component here as well. And this one, it's going to be called scroll rect. So we're going to add this, and now we're going to add, or rather drag in, the slot holder game object into the field where it says content. And we're gonna go ahead and uncheck horizontal here in the scroll rect component, because we're not gonna scroll horizontally, it's just going to be vertically. And you can see that it automatically moved all of these slots, or rather the slot holder game object itself, into the center of the screen, which we obviously don't want in this case. And you can basically just go back to the slot holder and move it back a little bit. So I'd rather have it around here. So I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm going to increase the height of this slot holder itself. And you can see that we now have this gap, this weird gap here, and that's because we have the slot holder component, or rather the grid layout group component inside of the slot holder to be middle center, right? The child alignment. So we can actually just set it to be upper center, and it's going to move it up back there. One thing I'm gonna do with the slots here is I'm gonna highlight every single one of them, and then go to add component and add a new button component to each of them. And this component is going to allow us to have an interaction with each of these slots here. Oh, and by the way, one mistake that I realized which I made was I overextended this whole, the graphic itself, right? The panel. And so you can actually have it as tall as you wish to, but it's suggested to have it as tall as the last slot lasts. You know what I mean? So if it reaches all the way down here, you can probably just have a little bit of gap in between them, just like that, and make sure that it works fine. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna allow the player to enable and disable the inventory. So we're gonna go to the assets folder and right click and create a new folder here. and we're gonna call this one scripts so that we can locate all of our custom scripts in this. And inside of the folder, we're gonna right click one more time, and this time we're gonna create a C# script. And now I'm gonna call this script inventory, and then I'm going to drag this script onto the player. Now you might be asking me, why are you dragging the inventory script onto the player but not the inventory game object? And that's mainly because the player has the inventory, right? The game object doesn't have it, and the inventory is something that the player is going to interact with. So I want the player game object to have the script and have full accessibility to it. So let's go ahead and open up the inventory script, and let me actually zoom in a little bit here. How do you do it? Oh, there we go. Because this is very small. So first things first, I'm gonna jump down a little bit, and let's go ahead and remove these two lines because it's just the typical thing to do. So we're gonna start by creating a new boolean here, and this one is called public bool, and then we're gonna name it inventory enabled. So we're gonna continue by creating a void update. Oh, there we go. It just created that. Okay, we do not want to have it as private though. There we go. Oh, we're on key again. I really need to get used to this new keyboard. Or maybe I just picked myself a Mac keyboard. Either way, we're gonna have a if statement in here, and we're gonna say if input.getKeyDown keycode.I. So we're gonna just jump down one line and say inventory enabled equal to exclamation point inventory enabled. And this basically means we're gonna make sure that it switches in between inventory enabled equal to true and inventory enabled equal to false, because this exclamation point at the start of this inventory enabled means that it's going to be false. And now we're going to jump down a couple lines and say if inventory enabled equal to true, and in here we're going to want to access the inventory game object itself so that we can enable and disable the graphic. And to do that, we need a new game object, which is going to be the inventory. So we're going to say public game object inventory, and jump back down into the if statement and say inventory.setActive inside of parentheses true. And in here we're basically gonna do this opposite, so we're gonna say inventory.setActive equal to false. Not true, false. Alright, great. So let me go back to Unity real quick, go to the player game object, and drag in the inventory game object into the inventory field for the game object that we created. And I'm actually gonna go back to the script real quick and turn the public bool inventory enabled into just private, basically. And the reason we're doing this is because we don't need to see it inside of the inspector, because we don't want to play around with this field right here. So in the script, we're going to create a few more variables, and the first one is going to be a private integer, and we're going to call this all slots. And we're going to have one more, and this one is going to be called enabled slots. And enabled slots is basically going to be the number of slots that we enable for the player, judging by if he has a backpack it picked up or whatever, like if he has the extended slots available or not. And then we're gonna have a private game object, and this is going to be an array. So let me find, there we go. I was searching for the keys there. And this one is going to be called slot, only slot. And this is going to be the, I just keep pressing the wrong things. So this one is going to be a game object variable, which is going to be one instance of this variable for each of the slots that we have available. So we're also going to add a void start here. And inside of void start, we're going to detect all of these slots that are available, or rather even read them, right? So we're going to store them in a variable, which is a slot object itself. But in order to do that, we need to access the slot holder game object from the inspector. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new game object. So let's go ahead and say public game object this time and call this the slot holder. We can switch back to Unity real quick, and let's drag and drop the slot holder game object from the hierarchy into the component field right here. And now we can go back to the script, and inside of void start, we're now going to receive all of the slots themselves. I'm going to start by saying all slots equal to 40, because that's the number of slots that we have in the hierarchy right now. And then we're going to create a new for loop and say for int I equal to 0, I lower than all slots, and then I++. Oh, that's very interesting actually. So it was giving me an error because I was using the Mac lower than, and it's like a special emoji apparently for Mac. So I need to use the universal one. Apparently there is one. I thought that it was a universal one there, but it just kind of looked a little bit smaller. But okay, there we go. So now we're gonna say slot I inside of the brackets, equal to slot holder dot transform dot get child. And then inside of normal parentheses, we're basically just gonna say I and then close it down. Oh, and obviously we're trying to reach a game object as the slot itself is a game object type, so we can just say dot game object after get child. Now we're gonna jump below all slots equal to 40 and say slot equal to new game object and then normal bracket, and inside of here say all slots. There we go. So now we're basically saying that we're gonna create a new array list or an index of the slot game object array, and it's gonna be basically the same amount as the all slots number, which is 40. Okay, so I just want to include this very quickly because I'm kind of changing a little bit of my plans in regards to how I'm gonna design my inventory. I think it's just easier if we disable the image for the slot holder, for example, and then go to game object, UI, and add a new raw image. And this raw image is gonna have this texture, for example, which is a new asset pack that I actually just found, which I'm also going to link in the description. So I'm just going to move it here. I can resize it as I want to. And one more reason why I actually include this in this video, this segment, is not just to showcase how I design stuff, but it's more for beginners. So in case you're not familiar with the UI system, even if you're an intermediate Unity developer or whatever, if you haven't used the UI system a lot, you might not know this. So every single UI game object or object in general that you add into your canvas, the lower it is in the hierarchy, the higher priority it's going to have over everything else. So the UI object you have at the bottom is going to pop up at the top in the game view, and the same thing goes for the scene view. So if I, for example, like for instance here, right, the raw image as the inventory slot background, right, it's at the bottom of the canvas game object in the hierarchy. So I can move it at the top, to the top, even above the text, and it's going to pop up below. Or well, for us, it's actually just looking like it's beneath the slots themselves, which is the way we want it. Alright, I think that looks good. So one more thing that I want to do before ending the video is, as you can see, these are very transparent, the slots themselves. So we can literally just highlight every single one of them. Oops, I accidentally clicked. So just highlight every single one of them, click on the color property, and increase the alpha field. So you can now see that it becomes a lot more visible. So I'm just gonna go ahead and design a little bit, and you can do the same. I'm just gonna cut the video here, and then I'll come back when I actually finished it. All right, there we go. So the UI is finished. We have an inventory script that works for actually enabling and disabling the inventory window so that the player can see all the slots. We can now scroll, we can highlight and interact with each of the slots, and all of the slots are also read through the script of the inventory script. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this episode. Alright, so that was the start of our inventory, or rather the advanced inventory system in Unity 2019, which is the series name. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this short series of videos that I start making on this channel from now on. I want to return to making more tutorials, and this is kind of like one way of doing it. Instead of like committing into like 40 episodes of making an FPS survival game, which is like very specific towards the audience. So some people lose interest after a while, or drop out, or bail out, and some people don't even get started. So unfortunately, you know, those aren't very nice to make anymore, as I know that my community is a little bit more kind of like divided into different types of genres of games. So I want to cover mechanics and topics and all that kind of stuff, and especially core mechanics of games like inventories and saving and loading data and all that kind of stuff, and make short series out of it, instead of making like I said, instead of committing into like 50 episodes of doing something that people aren't gonna enjoy. So yeah, this definitely works so much better. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed and want to see more. If you do, make sure to drop a like on this video because it shows a lot of support, and obviously hit the subscribe button so you stay up to tune for new content. And also leave a comment on this video in case you have any thoughts, opinions, you just want to say hi, or even if you have any ideas regarding what I can cover in the future episodes. And then also make sure to join our Discord server, which is going to be linked in the description and also in the pinned comment down below. And that's very important in case you want to be a part of a community that is full of like-minded people just like you, right? So we're all interested in game development. We all want to see these tutorials, and we all want to support Sykoo. So it's a big platform of communication that I use in terms of like communicating to my community. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see you all in the comment section and in our Discord server, where I'm going to be super active in both places. So see you guys there. Have a good night and peace out.